live from New York. It's Saturday Night Live. No. Anyways, all right. So yes. That's fine. All right. So what I was saying over here, evidence for evolution, parsimony. All right. Is there a soul in the room that knows what that is? Yes, Gabrielle. No, nothing to do with that. Nice try though. Here is a legal for courage. There's no problem getting things wrong here. All right, pass the legal piece. Yes. Yes, sir. Okay, what is it? See, you can't just copy the lecture guide and put the words in and there and call that notes. If there's a word in your notes that's not explained, you have to explain what it is. Okay, so here's the thing about theories. All right? There's a lot of different theories that explain a lot of different things. But sometimes one is more convoluted than the other, more complicated than the other. We're going to talk about a lot of different things that evolution explains. And all of this stuff that's up here, evolution explains it. Very simply. A very simple explanation. We ended last class talking about this. How evolution is such an important thing for biology because it explains the unity and diversity of life. It explains why there's so much similarity across life forms. But it also explains all the differences that exist between the life forms. It explains that because all of us share common ancestry, but descent from those common ancestors with modification because of different evolutionary histories that each branch of the tree of life has gone through by being exposed by successive different environments and gathering different random mutations which allow them to survive or not survive in those environments. That life is full of a history of extinction and a history of new species. And that this theory explains all the forms, all the shapes, all the functions, everything there is in life. For example, look at belief. We're going to talk about a lot of belief in a couple of topics back, and I talk about that. So why do we believe in things? That's explained by evolution, believe it or not. Believe it or not. All right? Because an animal that doesn't have belief, when faced with a situation of no solution, right? All you have is desperation, right? And you just do an act of desperation, you try something, whatever, right? Humans have this weird thing that we do some things, that we take a leap of faith. And we just say, it's going to work! And we do it. 99.9% of the time, it doesn't work. But because we take leaps of faith, we survive when all the other ones don't. Because we try something when the other ones wouldn't. Are you with me? To make an advantage, it doesn't have to make you always survive. It just has to make you survive more than somebody else. So our leaps of faith have allowed us to survive more than everybody else. Our leaps of faith allows us to work together. Because when I meet someone new, and I have no idea who that person is, we take a leap of faith and say, we call that person a friend, and we start telling that person secrets and sharing with that person. Before we know it, that person's a friend. But that person could be an enemy that betrays you, and more often than not, that happens. People that we think are friends fail us. That's where forgiveness and care and love comes in, and understanding. But those kinds of things also evolved so that we can work together. So you see, belief is for that. What about intelligence? Intelligence, the human intelligence is special because we think about thinking. We are having right now a conversation about intelligence. Well, not a conversation, it's more like a lecture. But think about it. You can think about what somebody else is thinking. Have you ever wondered what that person is thinking? Right? Right? So you're talking to a girl, you're talking to a guy, and all of a sudden you be like, what is that person think? I wonder what the person is thinking. Right? Why do we think about thinking? Why do we try to anticipate things? Why do we try to make connections where there are none? Why do we ask questions to things that have no explanation? All so that we can help predict what the other person is going to do and work together. So we are a species that develop characteristics like that because of our evolutionary history and because of the mutations that we've had to allow us to work together. Our intelligence, our belief, it's all a byproduct of the need to work together. Because without thinking about thinking, how do you work with someone else? Without trust, how do you depend on someone else? So that's why belief is... So see, even that is explained by evolution. Anything, any behavior, any structure, any similarity, any difference in biology can be explained because of this. Evolution is the ultimate causation for everything. And that, in effect, is what I put over here. Biology. One of the big evidence for evolution is the fact that evolution explains things in biology. Right? It's a useful theory. And not only that, it explains all the unity and diversity of life. It explains all the forms and functions of life. And it's related to all the other fields of life, like ecology, for example. Right? Now, parsimony is that in doing so, it's the simplest way to explain things. Sure, people that defend intelligent design have some very nice explanations for certain things. For example, you say, well, all the similarities are because the same designer designed everything. And all the differences is because he decided to get creative. Right? Okay, so sometimes he decided to be creative, sometimes he didn't. And that's why it's like the way it is. Right? It kind of makes sense. Alright, but we're going to get to some things that don't make sense with that. And then you have to come up with a convoluted explanation to try to explain that. So, evolution is not a theory that has these holes that need to be patched up. It has a few things we don't understand yet, but it's not a theory that's leaking. Are you with me? And that needs repair. It's a robust theory that explains things very simply. Parsimony is this. So, who likes math? Anybody here loves math? Okay, good. We got some people here. Awesome. So if you like math, who has Lorenzo? Okay, cool. So hopefully he's going to teach you some good math. You right? He's a bit of a wizard. Oh, so let's see if he helps you out. Now, very lucky to have Lorenzo so early, I think. All right? You guys are. So, I just talked like Yoda. But what I was going to say is, in math, those of you who like it, isn't there sometimes like very different ways to solve the same problem? Right? And then there's one way that's the easy way, and there's sometimes another way that's a different way that's much more complicated, but it still answers the same question in the same way. So when you rush for time, or when you're trying to do something, there's just a small part of something bigger, because that's the thing about math. Right now you're learning stuff that seems hard, but eventually that's going to be a small piece of a bigger puzzle. For example, a few years ago, you were learning to add and multiply. And that was a challenge. And now, you are using addition and multiplication as a part of a bigger problem. And now the algebra and the pre-algebra and the geometry that you're doing will be little pieces of the calculus problem you will do someday. Right? So you see, that math is like that. But my point is, when you get a choice then, of what method to use, and you press for time, doesn't it make sense to use the simplest explanation or the simplest method? So this is called Occam's razor. In science, we use the theory or the explanation is the simplest. If you have two competing theories that completely explain what happens, the simplest one makes more sense. All right? And the thing about origin of species, there are no other theory that can explain all this evidence so simply. Because intelligent design does not explain that, the fossil record. Intelligent design does not explain homologies, vestigial structures, or the DNA record. It becomes a convoluted process to try to defend that. So the simplest explanation applies, and that's what parsimony is all about. Is that clear? Okay, now let's talk about actual science here. That was a bit of logic, right? Now let's talk about evidence, that actually tangible evidence of evolution. All right, and you guys can help me out because you know this stuff, you're just reviewing it. So what is this evidence all about? Don't say it out loud. What, Gabriela Taveras, where are you? So what is this picture all about? What? Fossil evidence, yes. So give the woman a Lego. If you participate, then lend your Lego. All right? So, Matthew, Rofial, where are you? Tell me something that this picture is telling you. What is that telling you? What is this about? Diversity? Sure, there's a lot of different types of life that have existed throughout the history, right? Yeah, that's good, Lego. All right, VJ, what else does this picture tell us? Sorry? Well, yeah, many different types of life, sure, but what's this all about, you guys think here? Yes? Yeah? Of who? Who?
Humans.
Humans. Now, we're over here, Homo sapiens. Now the thing is that when you look at this cranium, that is not the cranium of a mutant human. Are you with me? Of some person that was born with some disease and has some weird shaped cranium, or someone who was placed in their, because we have the human cranium can look different. There's some Aboriginal Indians that they raise their babies on very hard cradles, and then the back just turns flat.
Oh my god!
All right. Now it's just the way the bone grows. Because remember, the baby bones are just soft.
Yeah.
So if you just keep them there the whole time, it bone grows that way, then it solidifies that way, and it becomes stacked that. Those bones, it's not because of that. That is very different. But the gorilla ones, look at the gorilla. So is this more similar to a human or more similar to a gorilla, you guys think?
Similar to a human.
Human. That's the gorilla, that's the chimp, that's a human. Right? In fact, we are a little closer to the chimp than we are to the gorilla if you really look at, if you really look at that question.
What did that graph also show? Common ancestry.
Common ancestry, yes, that's what it's all about. Give a legal, exactly. All right? Very good. But what we're showing here is that these things are similar because of similar ancestry. But what I am showing you, and I'm trying to show you, is that these craniums are not human craniums, but they're not monkey craniums. They're not gorilla craniums. They're not hominid craniums. No, sorry. They're not chimpanzee craniums. Right? They're not apes. But they're not human either. So what are they? All right? That's the thing. So the moment you say that, okay, and this is the thing about this. They are not found in the same rock record layer as the current humans are found. They're ancient bones that if you date with modern scientific dating methods, which are not carbon dating, it's a misconception. Carbon dating is only used to date recent things. We have a lot of different ways to date things. So when these things are dated, they're dated with different methods. And when you use that to date these things, you get very ancient bones, things of the sort of like 1 million, 2 million years for some of these. So 2 million year old cranium that's not a monkey cranium, not a human cranium, not a gorilla cranium, but looks a lot like a human cranium. It's not a 2 million year old mutant from a long time ago. Because here's the thing, you do not find this cranium in this group, the same place in the rock. That cranium, you never will find that cranium 2 million years old. It is not there. Are you with me? Our cranium, you never find one older than the 100,000 years old. There is no such thing as a Homo sapiens cranium that's older than 100,000 years ago out there. You find one, it will throw all of this to shit. But you won't find one, I think, because we didn't exist back then. Right? And we don't find these guys around today either, because it's not a mutant human. It's some other sort of life that doesn't exist anymore. Right? Now, this is where Darwin gets, because this research started around Darwin's time, and this is where people got angry with him, because they said, well, those are our ancestors. That's where we came from. Those are the things that are our ancestors. So, the fossil record shows us a history of change. Right? That's evidence for evolution. Correct? You see life forms changing, a transition. And you see things going extinct, things showing up that didn't exist before. Where's the saber-tooth? Not around. Is there lions at the same time saber-tooth were around? No. 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 Lions are newer than saber-tooth are. Where are the mammoths? Gone. Were there elephants coexisting with mammoths? No. Where are the dinosaurs? Gone. Were there alligators coexisting with dinosaurs? No. Are there dinosaurs today?
No.
Yes, they're called birds. So see, birds evolved from dinosaurs. So, you see, that's evidence for evolution. The evidence that we get from fossil records. By the way, I said a lot of things about fossils. If you're smart, if you didn't have it in your notes, you write it down. Fossils tell us that things that went extinct. They tell us that things show up. They tell us that transition of the history. Okay. Has anyone ever, you know sequoia trees? Have you heard about sequoia trees ever?
Yeah.
Sequoia trees are very tall trees. Right? Enormous, enormous trees. Okay? I'm going to show you a picture someone today when we're talking about macroevolution. No one has seen a sequoia tree grow. Right? But some of them are 2,000, 3,000 years old. Right? They're so big that like one of them can be bigger than this big circle made by this stage. This is in Yosemite Park in California. So there's a tree that you can drive a two-way street through it. All right? It's open, two-way street, and it's still standing. It's enormous. Right? So these trees, which are in danger because of the California drought, right? Although it's a little northern than the part that's really affected by the drought,
You see, I smell the birdie. I'm just telling you, like 5 minutes.
yeah, they're thinking too hard. That's what happens. All right. So the trees. Shh, guys, quiet. So no one has seen a sequoia grow. Does anyone have a doubt that those sequoias started from a seed? Why not?
Because that's how plants grow.
But nobody's seen it grow. There is no evidence that sequoias grow because no one has seen it. I'll throw another argument at you. Hold on. So you walk into a room. So let's God forbid this happens, right? But you come here, 7th period after 5th period leaves. That's too fast for this to happen. It could happen, right? And you Mr. Lima is here on the floor. Blood is coming out of his neck, and he's dead. There's right. Sleep is dead. Next day, the clone shows up, and everything's okay. All right. Yes, because that's why I'm 113 years old, right? So says the legend. Because every time I die, I get cloned. All right. I died about 6 years ago during the swine flu. It was very sad. You knew the other clone, didn't you? Yes. Huh? Yeah, they knew the other version. This version is going strong. Almost didn't make it. This version did. But 2 years ago, this version almost died of cancer. But we're still around. All right? Or maybe it did die of cancer, and this is the clone. Okay? All right.
Power of Lisa's.
It's like the TARDIS, right? It's like Doctor Who. It's just a new doctor shows up. Except I show up the same way. But anyways, and then somebody comes with a gun to class and says, I want to see you come back from this, you know? That scares me so much, the whole gun violence thing that's happening in America. You know, it's so crazy. We have this trust that we are here to learn in the temple of knowledge, right? And then, but you know, there's so many sad people. Sometimes people just need a hug, man. Like, seriously. Now, are you laughing? When is the last time you hugged a stranger? Right? Someone is walking down crying. Why don't you stop and say, what's going on? I don't know, I'm not even your friend, but I don't like seeing that happen. Can I help you out? Why is it so hard to do that? You know, somebody's struggling, just failed the quiz, they're sad. You're there sitting celebrating, yeah, I got 30 points. Alright? So you see, you get 30 points. Do you know that actually there's psychological studies that say that if you get 4 hugs a day, it actually helps you be happier? Like, hug your neighbors. Now! Give it a hug. Let's do it. Hug it out. Hug it. Stop being so shy. There you go. There you go. Give a hug. All right. Now, very good. Very good. Who says science can inspire love, right? But having said that, so back to the death scene here, to the crime scene. No witnesses were there. They checked the cameras. The feed was mysteriously off. Right? But they found DNA evidence in the knife that was found at the scene of a second person's blood, perhaps from the stabbing, accidentally cut themselves. Right? Someone else sees a student running from the scene at the moment, and then they find evidence later on. The student gets questioned. He says, I didn't see anything. I was just scared because I was the first one to see that was happening. I didn't want to, so I went away. But I saw a teacher. I couldn't recognize who it was that was leaving the room right before me. All right. Then they do some things. They find out that I had enemies. Right. And they come and they ask questions. Now, no one saw the murder happen. Can someone still go to jail, to the death chamber, because of this? In Florida? No one saw it. Yes, there is in Florida. Death sentence, of course there is. We killed a bunch of people. No, you can go, you can fry. You can absolutely fry in Florida. I don't know if it's a chair.
But in some states it's not.
I think it's a lethal injection in Florida, but we have it for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. Now, we have it for sure. But anyways, can someone still go to jail and even be put to death, even if no eyewitnesses were around?
Yes.
Why?
Because you found like the blood on the floor.
It's called science, bitch. Okay? You do not need to see it to believe it. Because it's not about belief, it's about evidence. And remember the way the justice system works, it's not even, you don't even have to prove it. Right? You just have to make it, beyond a reasonable doubt that a person is guilty. Are you with me? Actually, in our system, the person is innocent. You got to give the person the benefit of the doubt, right? It's innocent until proven guilty. But you have to prove the guilty beyond any reasonable doubt. But that's the thing about science. You don't even have room for doubt when it comes to evolution, because even though the sequoia trees were not watched, the evolutionary record of the species is around. It's called fossil record, right? So our fossil record allows us to see the history of life. Anyways, I digress.
What's in that whale?
That's actually not a whale, it's a fossil. But in this fossil, we find a tiny little limb-looking thing. Okay? Now, we were switching to a different evidence for evolution. If you know what this is, let's see. Who is this person? Melanie Perez? What is that all about? What evidence is this? A whale, aquatic organism still has a foot. It's a vestigial structure. What is that, guys? Vestigial structure? Let's see. Isabella Milanes.
A vestigial structure is when you have a structure that used to be used by anything else.
Right. But it also shows similarity with an ancestor, right? So what does it suggest about that fossil? They used to, its ancestor was a land animal, right? Now, the whales actually have a remnant of that. It has a pelvic bone that's not even connected to the spine. It's just sitting there. All right? Why would you have... Okay, so
Wait, so how does it...
let there be whale. With a pelvic bone! Why? Oh, just because.
Just code.
Because I want people to doubt me. So I'll put a question mark. That's the only way that makes sense. If you're talking about a designer that puts something there to make it seem like it wasn't designed, just so you doubt that it was designed, but then it says you have to trust that it was designed. I'm not sure that makes sense. Are you with me? It doesn't make sense. What I'm trying to say is that how do you explain things like that in fossils with a designer? At that point, you have to accept the existence of a designer that put things on purpose to confuse you. Are you with me? Because when I look at that, I don't look at a design, I look at a remnant. Are you with me? Something left over. For example, when you have Windows 10. When I look at Windows 10, I see Windows 8. It's in there. Are you with me? Its ancestor is there. And in fact, there's a vestigial structure in the code from Windows NT from 2000, which is still not useful anymore for the networking components of the system, but it's still in the code. Lost, but still there. Because it's part of the architecture of the designer. Yes. But it's a bad example because in this case, the Windows was designed. Right? And in the case of biology, nothing is designing it, but that's still being modified by what? Randomness? Not really. Is it random? It's not random. It's purposeful because of selection. But there's no intent. There's no direction. There's no goal. That's what's random. It depends on what the environment is doing at the time. But anyways, this shows, that's another thing about the fossil record. It shows transitions, right? And it shows similarity. But look at that. There's another thing you can see in this picture. Which of these can you see in this picture besides the vestigial structures of the pelvic bone and the hind limb there? Homologous. Who said that? Alec, right? So where do you see homology, Alec? Point it out. The legs, right? They look similar, right? All right? Especially the forelimbs. There's bones and stuff. But there's a more obvious one. Anybody see the most obvious? Yes. The ribs. Look at the ribs. They're very similar, right? But there's one even more obvious than the ribs, yes? the spine, right? A high degree of homology indicating that they share ancestry, right? So that's what homology is. We covered that already. More homology. You see, now let me ask you another question here. Why is it, now the connection between the bones, even the number of bones, is all similar. But are they all identical?
No.
So they have similarity because they come from the same ancestor, but they are different. Why are they different? Annie.
They're different because they evolved in different environments.
Right. So homologous structures don't tell us only about same ancestor. It also tells us about this different history, the different pressure that they lived under. To fly, to swim, to run, to grasp. Right? And so each evolved for a different function. The function modifies the origin. So, if I want a phone that's supposed to be waterproof, it will have modifications for that. Again, a bad example because someone designed it. Right? But this is a cool thing. You don't need a designer if there is a method behind the process. Okay? Homology, by the way, that's why I put molecular evidence next to it, also exists in the molecular level. There are such things as called genes and proteins, and this is actually comparing a protein of 3 different organisms, but their proteins are very, very similar. Are you with me? Because they have the same ancestor. In fact, you can quantify that similarity by counting the building blocks. Amino acids are the building blocks that make proteins. So if you ever like to work out, the protein shakes, they have amino acids on them. That's so that you can, when you lose muscle, you can build them back up. So that's why they have these amino acids. Those are the building blocks for proteins. But if you compare your hemoglobin, which is the protein that carries oxygen, with that of any other human, it will pretty much be the same protein, 100% the same, unless you're some sort of weird mutant. Who's a mutant? All of us. You know why you're a mutant? Because all of us have differences. Are you like the original human? All right, if there even is one. Right? Now, if you compare all hemoglobin with the hemoglobin of a monkey, it's 95% the same. And without a mouse, it's 80. What? Okay, so Ilaria, you see how it's getting less percentage here? Why are we less like the lampreys than we are like the rhesus monkey, for example? Because of the environment? Yeah, she's not wrong. We share common ancestors, but each of these, how long ago, if we share ancestors, assuming that we do, we share an ancestor with the lamprey? Hundreds of millions of years ago. Meanwhile, the rhesus monkey, it's probably of tens of millions of years ago. And therefore, the history of the monkey and the history of us meets a little not too long ago compared to this one. So this has had more time to have a different track. Are you with me? So the Macs and the computers and the PCs went in different directions, but a long time ago they started together. Actually, some of the people that worked on both of them were all in the same group in the beginning. But they went in different directions because they separated, right? And since the more time that goes by, the longer that will go. But at the same time, why is there so similar? Because how are we 95% the same as a rhesus monkey as far as hemoglobin is concerned? Because we share ancestors. And that's interesting. Alright? That's molecular evidence. Now, by the way, there's also, that is cool. But what's even cooler is molecular vestigial structures. It's called pseudogenes. We have in us genes from bacteria. Alright? Now, that's interesting. Okay? The bacteria, we're not doing the things that bacteria do with these genes. In fact, these genes are broken. So you think of it as your DNA as a library of information. Library of the information that makes you who you are. Right? Now, in this library, there's some books, some ancient books, which you pick them up from the library, and they're almost in shambles. If you pick them up, if you're not too careful, they'll fall apart. Right? When you open these ancient books, there's only like 2 or 3 pages left. And you pick up that page carefully, and you read it, and you study it. And then you realize it. Alright, so then you read it, and you realize it. Hold on a second. This book is the same book I read last week when I was looking at the bacteria library. But it's only 1 page of it left here. So it's like your DNA has an archaeological record of ancestry in it. We have genetic code shambles from the times that our ancestors were are you with me? Because our genes came from descent all the way to bacteria. Alright? So we have a vestigial structure, like a pelvic bone in a whale, except it's a gene that's left over there. But that's the same gene as the bacteria. I could think that's amazing. I agree. Alright? Here's another one. What is this picture telling us? Miss Iris? Where's Isabel Iris? What is this picture telling us? They're all what? Analogous structures. Very good. Alright? Now, what is the difference between analogous structures and homologous structures, Felipe Avedano? Where's Felipe? Why are you guys laughing? All right, he got this, he got this. Oh, hold on, Felipe. Let me ask you a question. Are these wings all the same? Correct, how? Yes! They have the same function. But let's see how they achieve this function. Are the structures the same for all the wings? Do they look structurally the same? No. Now, think about if there is a common ancestor to these organisms. To the pterodactyl, to the bat, to the butterfly, to the bird. If there is a common ancestor, okay? Did it have wings? The answer is no. It'll be like a worm. Worms don't have wings. But the wings developed separately in different branches. But not the same wing. Completely different wings. But why are they all wings? Because they're trying to do the same thing. So in evolution, sometimes we have different ancestors, but the same function being performed by a similar structure because of common pressure. The pressure to fly. On the water, there's pressure to be streamlined. And that's why turtles, ancient reptiles that used to be in the water, sharks, which are fish, porpoises and dolphins, which are mammals, all have that streamlined body shape. Right? Different branches of the tree of life, all streamlined because it's a similar function. Alright? Jumping legs, similar structure, similar functions. These are more examples of vestigial structures. There's some interesting ones. I mentioned some in the quiz. We have a bone for a tail. Here comes the design thing again. That's why I put an asterisk on vestigial structure, because for me, vestigial structures does not make sense to the designer. Why did you put the appendix in there? Like, why? Why design with an appendix only to make me sick from it? Although there's not science suggesting that the appendix actually provides some sort of immune function and even perhaps a small intestinal function. But my point is, why do we have muscles to move our ears still, even though there has no nerves to activate them? There are some people who still have them, like this guy was trying to move his ears to show that he can. Alright? But he spent energy making those muscles. The nerves to move that gives a skill that, so the energy he spent on that, one of us spent on something else. So, are you with me what I'm saying? Right? But sometimes it's a useless function, right? So, you have a question or comment? Yes,
Isn't it because they're not disadvantageous enough?
They're still around because they're not disadvantageous enough. Yes. But the interesting, very good. But the interesting thing about them is that they are there. Because think about it, if you were designed, right, it doesn't make sense for it to be there. Alright? Mosaic structures. Mosaic structures is about this. We have limbs, or we use structures to do one thing when they evolve for other things. Right? For example, the original use for limbs was to walk on 4 feet among all terrestrial organisms. But this has been modified in the penguin to fly, in birds to fly. It's modified in the dolphin to swim. Are you with me? And in us for being grasping tools. Right? Or working tools. So hands, which were originally feet, are now used for grasping. But here's the other thing. That even happens genetically too. Genes which evolve for one function combine to do another. Like the hemoglobin gene, the immunoglobulin genes, which do your antibodies, they actually evolve for some other reason, but now they're being used for that reason. So mosaic structures are this idea that evolution sometimes repurposes tools by changing them. But because they came from another type of tool, they will always be limited. Just like cell phones will always not be the best camera because they were designed first to be cell phones. So they'll be inherited and limited by their history. We will never have the best grasping tools because we have walking tools modified to be grasping tools. And that's mosaic evolution.
Because it didn't start out as God.
Right. But then that's also anti-designer. Because you made a screwed up hand for me. I could have made this hand a lot better. But unfortunately it has limits in motion, which make me not do certain things with it. My feet are not the best walking tool because they're limited by the history that they had in them. All right? And so our natural history limits what our things can do. That's why we don't fly, because of our natural history. Now, if all this evidence is not enough to convince you, I have a couple more and then we're done. This one is like a nail in the coffin. Just get a nail and put it in the coffin of anybody that doesn't accept evolution. Because why do humans have gills?
We have gills when you're an embryo.
Right? On the beginning of our stages as the embryo, we have gills. Yes.
You also have webbing.
Right? And we also have tails. And the tail actually lasts for weeks. We actually develop hands and feet and they still have the tail in there. You know why? Because our genes are the same genes as the fish genes. The same genes as the lizard genes. And until primate genes activate, we look like, in fact, if you look at the embryo, human embryo, early on, and the chicken, and the rabbit, and the tortoise, and maybe even a salamander, if you're not trained, you might not be able to tell the difference. Look at the fish, look at the human. If you're not a trained embryologist, you don't know which one is the human embryo. Are you with me there? And that's because we are fish. We are overdeveloped fish. We are reptiles.
We're mermaids.
Overdeveloped fish. We are mermaids. Ariel is a real story, people. We have conquered the land. But that was about 300 million years ago, something like that. Yes. Yes.
You see, man, we were born in the wrong time.
Can a kid, you know how, they're-
Born with the gills?
yeah.
If that happened, it would probably compromise the embryo so much that you would die. And these gills are not actually functional gills. They're just the gill slits, what's left of them. Are you with me?
Good afternoon, Madeline. Please
Now, the last thing I want to throw out, and then I'll stop. We can also do genetic analysis.
There will be a meeting.
And there's amazing evidence of the connectivity. 98% of the point say the same as a gorilla, right? We have amazing evidence that comes from DNA. More on this for my videos. Last but not least, there's biogeography. The fact that the distribution of life on Earth is matched to its environment. There is actual evolution observed, like the evolution of viruses becoming resistant to the drugs. Every year, there's a new flu. If that's not evolution, I don't know what it is.
Attention all
Bacteria! You put antibiotics. Oh, guys, there's actually 10 minutes of class left. They're doing announcements. That doesn't mean the class is over. Don't pack. 99.9% of bacteria will die in my hands right now. Right? This is magic thing that kills 99.9% of them. Right? Now, 0.01% of them are still there. Now, the thing is that I'm scared of them, so now I want to kill them. Does that work? Now, what actually does is that the ones that didn't die, why didn't they die? There's some sort of mutant they're resistant. Now, since there's all this left, this is useless against them now. Of course, I'll touch the kill again. Some of the other ones that can be killed are there. So now you kill them again, right? But the thing is that the more we use this as a society, in chickens, in cows, in fish, right? We expose the bacteria in the environment to it. 50 years ago, penicillin used to kill everything. Now it only works half the time.
You're in luck. The
Why is that?
advice column is here for you.
Because
You can
they're
submit your
evolving.
questions to
So,
ask.fm.
our last evidence for evolution is the actual observation. We have seen viruses evolve, bacteria evolve, even worms and flies actually evolving into new species. Plants, flowers evolving into new species of plants. Here's the thing about evolution, people. And that's, by the way, I didn't get to activity, but it's okay. We have a class that, 15 like I have a class, we have a class they don't have. On the PSAT day, we have an extra class, so it's okay. So that's why I spent extra time with you guys. Let me tell you something.
There will be
This is
marks in
huge.
the grade book.
Okay? There is more evidence that evolution happens. than there is that we orbit the sun. Right? And so, it's true, seriously. That's based on anecdotal evidence from a few astronauts and satellite data that I have never seen myself.
Attention seniors, make sure to turn in your
Right?
field trip form
On the other hand,
Wednesday,
you
October
can do this
21st,
lab in class
have the
and
October
show the
28th
bacteria have no resistance. Anyone can see evolution.
Have a great
All right? It's all around us every day. So, be open-minded, learn about it, and at least be educated about it. All right? Okay, now let me tell you about the activity. Okay? Did you guys turn in your articles? All right. So next time, as soon as you come in, what I need you guys to do is you're going to read 2 pro articles, plus your own, of course, and 2 con articles, plus your own, of course. All right? And I want you to extract from the articles and take notes on evidence for evolution or against evolution. And you're going to say where the article comes from, how trustworthy the article is, and what the evidence you collected from was. That's the first stage. After you finish that, I'll give you a second test. Okay? So that's next class. And the second half of the class, we do another activity as well. Next class, no quiz on microevolution, just activity day. I'll see you guys then. Between now and then, don't do anything that would not make your mama proud. Same, Rebecca. Please bring the buzzards back up front. Thank you. Today I am, yes. I'll be here till like 6 o'clock. Yeah.